Howdy, and welcome back to my channel. This is a little bit different from my usual fare. This is actually a vlog that takes me through my thought process when following this grand bustle pattern from Truly Victorian. It doesn't actually contain any shots of me sewing, but I thought you guys might still enjoy it. Hello, and welcome to Every Day is Blur's Day. It's Saturday the 2nd, and I am in full Every Day is Blur's Day. There is no differentiation between the days. I have two projects that I am about to finish up with. I was going to work next on some kind of supremely extra dress out of this gorgeous cut of fabric, but it hasn't been pre-washed, so that's not a thing that can happen. So I thought I would take you guys through a vlog of me making this Truly Victorian grand bustle. I have, in my theme of making historical things out of totally inappropriate fabrics, I have this damask print in light and medium blues on white, and since I only have 5 yards of that, I have a little bit of extra sky blue fabric that I might do ruffles with or something. I was thinking, or perhaps if I do the version of this with 2 ruffles on the bottom, I'll use it for that so that when my skirt flies you don't see the damask, but we'll see what happens. I've got the reed boning that I plan on using for it because steel is not in the budget in my little storage thing, because it does not fit in my new house, because this apartment is only like 600 feet, so I'm about to get started on cutting out the fabric. I think I'm gonna do a size medium because my hip measurement is usually around 38, but we'll see how that goes. Usually my waist is a small, but it says to choose by the hips, so I think I'll go with the size medium. And if push comes to shove, I can always drawstring the waistband down to fit my waist better, whereas it's kind of hard to expand the hip. So I've got all the pieces on big old flat papers here. I'll get to cutting this out off camera because I'm also going to Zoom call with my girlfriend while I do it. So this ruffle pattern is just shy of actually fitting on this, but I think if I use that ruffle pattern for the very top, it should still work and it won't matter that there's a couple inches missing, because those are just gonna get gathered down to fit the width of the back. So I think I can get away with it. Sure hope I can. Yeah, apparently these pieces are just too long for this, but I'm worried about having enough fabric, so I'm just gonna cut them on the fold on my 44-inch wide fabric, and we're just gonna deal with it. Alright, have a lovely pile of pattern pieces here marked appropriately in ballpoint pen, which you're not supposed to do, but most of the points that I've marked in ballpoint pen are just gonna have stuff sewn over them. And it's only on the seam allowance, so I think it's okay, and I'm the one who has to look at it, so does it matter? No, except to possibly all of you watching this. Alright, I've got front panels with an 8-inch gap for the placket for the drawstring or whatever that you use to open up the bustle. The closure is at center front, so I've got to grab the side panels on here. I think I'm just gonna pink these edges because it's not like you do a whole lot of grand washing with a grand bustle. It's a piece that doesn't get particularly dirty, and it's also a piece that doesn't get laundered that often because there's all the bones inside of it, and those are a pain in the ass to take out, which you have to do in order to launder. So I might just leave these raw or pink them or something. It's not that big a deal. So I've got 2 pieces for the outside, and it's also time for me to, since I have this dart at the very center back, there were stars on here, and put wrong sides together, and that will be our back brace panel. And all of this is to help the bustle shape appropriately and not do anything too strange while you're working with it. Wrong side to wrong side to wrong side. And then after that, I'm gonna go through and iron absolutely all of this, because it's going to need a good iron. I didn't iron the pieces originally because they weren't that wrinkled, but I'm definitely gonna need to iron all of these seams. I'm not sewing in the back brace. I am sewing the side front panels onto the front, side placket down once I have ironed it, and I am sewing the bone casing into here once this is thing. So I had everything all wrong, and I am just bad at following directions, as I have stated before. This is also how I approach building furniture, is to just do it the way that I think it should be done. With a lot of garments, you add the boning very last, but this one is not like the other girls, so I will get started on sewing and ironing then. And while I was at it, I did up the top and bottom of the back bracing piece. It's just turned in by 1/2 inch and stitched down. I think I'm also gonna end up having to stitch down at least a little bit up, like, here's my front panel, up to the second bone casing on my front, so at least up to here. I don't know, that doesn't line up. I don't know. Fix that later. At least up to these to keep my bones from getting caught in this when I'm pushing them through the bone casing. But first I must go through and sew all of my bones in this back piece, and there's one that goes through this right here, so it goes partway through the dart, and they want me to put some of the bias tape over this before you sew on the channel so that it doesn't get caught. But it doesn't instruct you to do the same for the other one for some reason, but the other one I'm going to do that on anyway, because reed boning is already hard enough to force through boning channels. I would prefer not to get halfway through and realize that I have to undo my whole hemline so that I can unfuck myself there. I didn't line these up that well, huh? So I've pinned my main boning channels to the inside. It says to pin it to the right side in the instructions, but I kind of want my ugly bones, or at least the majority of them, on the inside rather than the outside. I'm not sure if that will mess up the structure, but if it does, we'll find out. So come on this experiment with me. I'm gonna sew these down, and then I might fashion a prettier way to put the boning channels on the outside that isn't this natural cotton, but we might not have a choice depending on what ribbons and bias tapes I happen to have on hand. Push comes to shove, I do have a little bit extra that I can use to make some bias tape, but like, I would prefer not to, because that's extra work, so we'll see how it goes. I've realized that these are supposed to go on the outside because this gets sewn wrong sides together, and then it's hard to put the boning channels in once you're doing that. So once the boning goes in, it's hard to put those in with this in the way. So my options are to decide to have one panel inside out, or to just struggle. And I'm leaning towards just struggling, so I'm gonna put, and I wouldn't have to worry about these being on the outside anyway because ruffles go on here, so it doesn't matter. So I got these sewn on, and then leave one side open to allow room to insert bones later. Do not sew the casings for 5 yet. I'm tempted to just super struggle and put everything on the side since we already struggling. But I also feel like that might make it difficult to go on my ruffles. When am I supposed to put the ruffles on? Okay, back brace doesn't go on till after the ruffles are on. I'm just gonna increase my struggle and just put it on here and struggle a lot. And maybe sew the back brace in by hand, potentially, once it is put together. But we'll see how much struggling I have to do. I like putting things together without fully reading the directions and then struggling. Alright, I have sewn all of these channels onto the wrong side. I realize that the ruffles will cover everything, so it won't be too obvious if I just flip this inside out and have this be the inside of the garment, because all of this is going to be covered with an entire whole panel of ruff. But I will know. And also this thing will be out. So I am conflicted. I'm gonna sleep on it. And I have to stop working now anyway, because I have a lot of neighbors. And it's almost 8 o'clock, and I know at least some of them have children, and I would prefer not to keep their children up too late. So we will continue this tomorrow after I finish deliberation. But I might indeed just flip this the other way around and suffer with that. It be like that sometimes. Alright, welcome to tomorrow. So I've got all these ruffles that I mowed over with my sewing machine with a double rolled hem on one side, and on the other side I've got rows upon rows of really wide stitching. This has a really long stitch length, so I can use that to gather things down. These are approximately supposed to be a 2-to-1 base to ruffle ratio, so I'll be able to pin all of these onto my back. I'm leaning towards having my boning channels still be on the outside, because now the ruffles will cover them, and I don't want to struggle too much with inserting my boning when that is ready. So these just go on these lines and lightly cover the bases of the other ruffles, and they'll result in a really smooth silhouette where you can't see all the lines from the hooping, like you'll see in some lower quality Halloween costumes where you can totally see every horizontal bone in the costume, and it looks really bad. This is how that kind of thing was achieved. You put petticoats or ruffles on top to hide all of your sins. Victorians, despite their prim and proper appearances, were hiding a lot of sin and a lot of hooping steel. The ruffles have intensified. I've got all of these pinned on nicely. Oh, this one is the wrong way around. I will fix that when I am sewing them on, I think. A little bit closer to that, because right now I'm kind of tired and I need to do laundry. So that's what I am going to do. It says to leave the very last ruffle off so that I can do my stuff here without worrying about it interfering with the last two boning channels, because to form the last boning channel, it's part of the hemline. So that needs to be left for last. So I will update you guys once the ruffles are done. After that, I believe it's time to do the bum brace. So that will be fun. This is so many ruffles. It's kind of amazing how many ruffles this is. Alright, I've got my ruffles sewn on. Although I was careful not to go through these. I think I have to sew this bit on by hand a little bit later, because there's no way to sew those on without going all the way through the boning channel. But now it is time to sew the back brace. Wrong sides together. So I am gonna do that now, when you gotta catch the edges in the seam as well. This is coming together surprisingly quickly. Alright, the back brace is installed, and now I'm sewing the back to the front. I hope I have this pinned together right. I think I do. I also think that I sewed on the final ruffle when I shouldn't have. I'm not sure where the 6th ruffle was supposed to be, but I think I've got... Was it maybe supposed to be up here? Either way, I'm gonna sew the back to the front, and probably even this out so that I can get started on those final 2 boning channels. I absolutely did not pin that on right, because how am I supposed to put this together then? Time to seam rip this bitch open and figure out what I did wrong and how this needs to go together. Alright, I think I pinned it on the right way this time, so everything that should be on the inside is on the inside. So we'll get that together and see how this all ends up. And then it's time for the very end of all of my twill tape. I still have like a lot, so I think I'm gonna have plenty of twill tape for my other boning channels. Yeah, this is definitely sewn on right, so now it is a semi-wearable skirt adjacent thing. So we've got that brace in there, and then so much the ruffles. I've sewn all the seam allowances here down because I plan to sew the twill tape for channel number 5 to the inside rather than the outside. I had to unpick a little bit of the final thing. I don't know if I miscounted or if there was supposed to be a ruffle up there? I think there was supposed to be a ruffle up on the top here that I just missed or something, but that can be dealt with in a minute, which would make this bottom one here the very last. But first I'm going to get the 5th channel sewn in for my bottom hem boning. There's 2 boning channels near the bottom, so it'll have twill tape all around the bottom, and then the second one is just made using the hem as a channel for the very last boning. And then you're supposed to sew on the last ruffle, but I jumped the gun and sewed the bottom one on. I can't find the other set of instructions to see if there's supposed to be a ruffle there, but I strongly suspect that there's supposed to be another ruffle on the top here. And then it's gathering down and sewing waistband and inserting all the boning, which I'm not looking forward to because I have reed boning and I have a strong suspicion that it's gonna grab onto everything, but I am too poor for steel bones at this time, or at least 7 yards of steel bones. Alright, I've sewn down my final separate boning channel, my last bit of twill tape all around. I've left the little bit open so that I will be able to get my boning in and out, and done the same thing with the hem. Here's the mark for my boning insertion. So the bone will go in this tube here, and there I can sew my last ruffle on now, and I can also gather down everything to fit the appropriate marks on this waistband. It does have particular notches pre-built into this pattern so that you know where to gather certain things down, because you do have to specifically gather more toward the back because the Bustle era like that flat front and ass like a dump truck. I rechecked the front of the pattern. This is actually just gathered. It does not have a ruffle, so I think I did the ruffle's wrong, but look at all this ruffle. I'm not redoing that. So I'm gonna run 2 lines of machine stitching and get this gathered down to the appropriate marks. And then, once the ruffle is sewn on, then it will be boning time. Boning time, boning time. Alright, update. I now have the waistband sewn in, which means that I am all ready to start installing my boning channels. There's no way for me to like lay out reed boning the way that you're supposed to do it and let it like get it wet and then dry it so that it's not wanting to be in a coil, because my apartment is very, very small. Like I live in a teeny tiny 1-bedroom apartment, so they're just gonna have to live the way they've been living in my storage closet. So I guess it's time to cut all these down to the lengths as prescribed by Truly Victorian, and I will update you all once I have done that. Welcome to the bone zone. Life hack, if you ever need to tip reed bones, you don't need U-tips. You can just use electrical tape and just seal it off. One of these bones is 3 inches shorter than the other. I'm not wasting more boning to cut a 68-inch bone unless I absolutely have to. So we'll see if I can make all of this work. Well, that went badly. I've got most of the boning channel, or most of the boning in. I misread the instructions because, like I said, my hobbies include not reading the instructions and then struggling. The bones, this like diagonal boning channel here is actually supposed to go through that little bit that I thought was just to secure bone number 1 down. I thought that was just to keep the seam allowance down, but as it turns out that was supposed to be a boning channel in and of itself. So in theory, this would go through here, but obviously I did not do that, and then I got confused and thought maybe this bone was supposed to be cut in half, so I cut it in half. This bone is just slightly too long for mystery reasons, and the final 2, one of them is too short, and I can't do anything to make up with that because it does its thing with the gap. So I've got a couple of scraps, which I am going to use to essentially repair what I have done. I don't know what I'm gonna do up here because I can't make it go down here because that messes with the shape. But I also don't want to unpick my boning channel and my ruffle so that I can do that. Maybe I can make it a little bit shorter and then have a second one. I don't know. I'm gonna tape them together, see what we see. And I'm also going to make this a little bit shorter. This is genuinely to the end of the boning channel on the other side. Like that's where the ruffle was sewn into the side seam. This is just genuinely too short, so I'm gonna cut that 1.5 inches shorter, and I'm gonna unfuck this part. This one was able to get taped together just fine, so I just have to reinforce that so that it's not like that when I wear it, because those do some funky things. But the waistband fits, which is good. So I'm gonna patch this. I also managed to, got a wet spot here because I managed to knock over my can of Monster and spill it absolutely everywhere. So it's going real good. Alright, guess who has an entire bustle? It me. Right, I went through and pinned this open boning channel, but this one I have also pinned. I think I'm gonna leave my boning channels pinned for a while. Eventually I do want to replace this reed probably eventually, but also I might replace it with proper hooping steel at some point or another. It really holds its shape. I ended up taping my, my impromptu bones together and pinning a separate thing. I think I'm gonna leave this pinned too, because that'll make it easier for me to get into it, but ones like down here are all pinned. The way you wash this is to actually take the boning out and then go wash it, so it's not like these bones are never ever intended to come out ever, although it does say to sew the channel shut. I am just not gonna do that. But what I am going to do is, so I went through with this one and just sewed one of my reed bone scraps. I just taped one of my reed bone scraps, so you can see where it's kind of fat here, to the other side, and then taped it at both ends and in the middle, so it wants to hold its shape the correct way now. Now it just does not want to collapse flat. Now it's definitely a bustle. You can actually sit in this bustle. There's this big gap. There's no bone in this one, so you've got 1.5 feet of gap between. So if you need to, you can sit down, the chair goes here, so that collapses down. So yeah, now I just have to sew on my little ruffles here. I do have my extra 2, and they do look like they will fit across my front here, so I will be able to have a bottom ruffle, although I did not get to make it blue. Sometimes it just would be like that. So I am going to sew on this back ruffle and the 2 ruffles in front, into the front, and then this gets 2 hooks and eyes right at the center front, and then it'll be completely wearable. And you'll get to see me, well, you probably won't get to see me wear it in a full costume, because I don't have anything that I actually intend to wear with this for now, but I'm gonna take a few good pictures of myself in this bustle. I actually don't have a corset or a chemise that will go under this, so I'll just be doing my best. I don't know what I'm gonna wear it with to show you. I don't own anything white. And then I can get started on more under things. I have that fabric is finally washed. It took a little longer than I anticipated because I was having an existential crisis. That purple is all going to be dedicated to a ruffled petticoat that I'm gonna wear under the dress that I make with that glorious Asian-inspired fabric, which will be a separate video. Hell is having to sew this entire seam in with this guy in by hand, because this won't fit under my machine foot, so fun times! As you've seen, I did make a few mistakes while I was in the process of making this bustle, but overall I had a pretty good time. I've never made something with this much boning in it before. I've only made corsets with boning, so it was an interesting thing to experience. While I cannot condone all of the mistakes I made when following this pattern, I do think in the end I ended up with a pretty solid foundation to drape on for my favorite period of fashion, the first bustle era. And I'm interested to hear if anyone else has done anything, these big contraptions of hooping and what to do to actually get to the finished project. And yes, I can sit down in this. Victorian women were practical. Like this video if you liked this video. Subscribe if you think you want to see more of me suffering and blundering and not reading the descriptions correctly, which you can also find more of on my Discord linked below. And I will see you all again real soon. Do it got the booty? It do. Ah, fuck. Oh no.